So many people are so quick to swat away a bee because they are scary, but most do not know how large of an impact bee has on the environment.
In your own words, could you tell us a little bit about what bees do for us?
Well, I know that we wouldn't have food without them just because they pollinate and that's how a lot of flowers and stuff happen. It'd really be honey, depending on the bee, but other than that.
The most important part of a bee's job in the ecosystem is pollination. When bees travel from flower to flower, they transfer pollen. This action fertilizes plants and creates a food source for many organisms, including humans. Without bees, we be a reduced food source. Many of our fruits and vegetables in the world depend on the process of pollination to be fertilized, including cherries, apples, corn, cucumbers, and many others. Bees also produce honey. They use the nectar from flowers to make their honey. That honey goes through a cleaning process and is then used around the world for many applications, one of these applications being a natural antibiotic. We need to educate ourselves on what is killing our natural pollinators and take action. The government, farmers, and everyday people can all help end this massacre.
Without bees, what kind of world would we live in? Bees pollinate the forests of Michigan. They pollinate cherry farms and keep crops growing. Without bees, farming would be extremely hard and pollination processes done solely by man would be long and tedious. Bee depopulation happens for multiple reasons, one of the biggest being colony collapse disorder. This occurs when the majority of worker bees in a colony disappear and leave behind a queen, plenty of food, and a few nurse bees to care for the remaining immature bees and the queen. In normal cases, we might see dead bees and easily be able to find a cause, but with colony collapse disorder, there is no trace of worker bees. They just leave the hive behind to eventually starve.
That's one of the reasons why I was interested in doing it, was because I knew colony collapse disorder, so I thought, well, if we got some, that would help. There would be some bees around. And then the other thing I will say is that they don't seem to survive Michigan winter very well, so colony collapse disorder is made worse by the fact that the bees aren't necessarily hardy enough to survive winter easily. A colony collapse disorder, but my understanding is we still don't really know why. So, and it's interesting because I've heard electrical cell phone towers, and we live near one. I've heard pesticides, and certainly we live near orchards, and I don't know if they spray, and I have farm fields around us, and I don't know if they spray, but that's obviously, the cell phone one I'm less inclined to believe, but the pesticides makes good sense.
Another leading factor of our bee decline is pesticide exposure. Certain pesticides meant to kill mites, termites, and other pests in crops are causing bees to die. Pesticides such as pyrethroids target a special protein that utilizes electrical signaling in the nervous system of all insects, essentially electrocuting them to death. With most of a colony relying on worker bees, the hive dies when these pesticides get to them. Other factors also include poor nutrition and pests. Poor nutrition is caused by their habitat being pillaged by other animals and humans. Their main enemy is the varroa mite, which sucks the blood of both adult bees and brood.
The EPA has put new restrictions in place to protect our bees from neonicotinoid pesticides, a commonly used pesticide on farms derived from nicotine. While the government seems to be trying to fix our large pesticide issues, farmers need to take action when choosing their pesticides to use on their crops and take pollinators into account. Farmers shouldn't spray the actual buds or flowers with pesticides and spot treat. This isn't very to happen though, because many farmers have multiple acres of crops growing at the same time and do not have the time or energy set aside to go through and put pesticides nearer to the ground by hand. Everyone has a part in helping the bees, and we can easily help them by changing what we do in our everyday lives.
We need to discontinue our use of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides in our gardens, as bees can be poisoned from these. Instead, plant plants that are bee-friendly like sage, sunflowers, spearmint, catnip, basil, violets, and many more, and go through and handpick your weeds. It's not that hard. The bees.
Well, my mom likes to plant a lot of flowers, and I know that brings them around. But my grandfather, he actually beekeeps, and he has a couple of farms out on his land that he takes care of. And
Try not to overweed your garden. In early spring, dandelions are one of the only sources of pollen that bees get. Buy honey from our local beekeepers. They are housing and supporting bees, and they need our support to support their bees. Without bees, we will not be able to have most of the food we have today as frequently as we have them now.